All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Devin Haney is reinstated as the WBC lightweight champion of the world by the WBC after he apologizes for what some people consider to be a controversial statement. My opinion on this is that both Devin Haney and the WBC come out looking terrible in this particular circumstance. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. So, Devin Haney is now the WBC lightweight champion of the world. He is no longer the WBC champion in recess because the WBC, the World Boxing Council, has reinstated him as their champion and at a most convenient time. Now, why do I say that? Well, first of all, why did he lose his belt? He lost his belt because he had an injury, and the WBC moved him to champion in recess. He didn't ask to be put in recess, but the rules for the WBC allow the WBC to remove a champion and put him in recess if they do not believe that he will be back in time from an injury to defend his title against the mandatory that they named. In this case, it was a mandatory fight against Javier Fortuna. And when Devin Haney had his injury, they said it was going to take too long, and then so the WBC ordered a fight between Luke Campbell and Javier Fortuna. So now, with the reinstatement of Devin Haney, they also did a couple other things. They allowed Devin Haney to have a voluntary fight in between before his next mandatory, and his mandatory will be between the winner of Javier Fortuna and Luke Campbell. So who's the big winner and loser in this circumstance? Number one is Javier Fortuna, because Javier Fortuna should just have to fight Devin Haney. Why should Javier Fortuna, who earned his spot at a shot at the title in his next fight, why should he be put off for another fight and not be able to fight Devin Haney right away? So to me, it sounds like a little bit of a disservice to Javier Fortuna and an opportunity for Eddie Hearn and Matchroom to get an interim title fight to get those two fights sanctioned by the WBC. Now, is it a right decision or a logical decision to give Devin Haney his belt back? Absolutely, it would have been if nothing else had been involved and the WBC had said, okay, we are going to reinstate Devin Haney. He petitioned us. We think that he's correct. When we initially put him in recess, we didn't know about this virus and how long fights were going to be out. But since we might not be fighting for the rest of the year, hey, you're right. Let's reinstate you, because if you're back, injuries. If you're not injured anymore, there's no reason why you should be in recess when there's no fights happening. If that was their logic, then cool. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have, though, is what actually happened. And what actually happened was that Devin Haney was on a live stream with 78 Sports TV, and he was on that live stream with 78 Sports TV, pretty much lobbying for the WBC to do what they did, talking about how they had gotten put in recess and they didn't ask for it, but in the midst of it, Devin Haney answers a question, and he makes the "ain't no white boy gonna beat me" comment. So after he does that, for some reason that I understand, but I still am like whatever about, a whole lot of people get on him about what he said, and he issues an apology. He said before he issues the apology, he has a good conversation. He has a good conversation with the WBC president, Mauricio Sulaiman. So what it seems happened is, and I think is reasonable to assume happened, is that the WBC was engaged in some pay for play. Now, pay for play, you got to understand what I mean by pay. I mean, pay like as in you give me something, I give you something. Not necessarily a cash exchange, but if you give me something, I give you something. Devin, if you give this apology, if you issue this apology, then we will look more favorably upon your request to have you reinstated as the WBC champion. I find it highly convenient that on day one, Devin Haney issues an apology for something he probably shouldn't even, that didn't offend anybody. And then day two, he gets his WBC belt back. When the WBC, by the way, sounded very iffy in their public release conversations and in their communications they've had previously about reinstating Devin Haney, and said that, we have not, they specifically rejected the notion that they were going to that they had reinstated him, and let him know that there's things we got to consider, including the fact that we have already mandated a fight between Javier Fortuna and Luke Campbell. So why do I say that they both come out looking bad? One is the paper play, appearance of paper play, pay for play by the WBC. And I believe it looks like pay for play the whole way through, from the time that they stripped him, because there was no reason to strip him. Absolutely no reason to strip him. You can point to multiple occasions. I can point to multiple occasions where WBC champions have held their belt and haven't defended their belts for multiple years. Mikey Garcia being one. Mikey Garcia had one title defense of that same WBC lightweight title in 2 years, while he traipsed up to 100, while he fought Adrian Bronner at catchweights. He moved up and won a 140-pound title against Sergey Lipinets, and had not defended. And the only time he ever defended his IBF middleweight championship, lightweight championship, was against Robert Easter Jr. That's it. And then he left the weight class. So from the time that he had Dijon Zataklanin, he won that belt, to the time that he fought almost 2 years later that he fought Robert Easter, he never defended that belt. Also, Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman held his WBC belt after he had a surgery for at least a year before they asked him to vacate his belt, and offered him the recess, and offered him. They didn't force it down the throat of Keith Thurman. They offered it to him, and Keith Thurman wind up becoming the champion in recess, but he had been out for an entire year. So that whole situation seemed like more like, they didn't really want Devin Haney as their champion, because the way that Devin Haney, now this transitioning into why they both look bad, is because Devin Haney now is a two-time, getting out of my mouth is tough, but it's the truth. He's a two-time WBC lightweight champion that never won a title in the ring, that got both of his WBC title, lightweight titles via email. Okay, and I'm not somebody that is a particularly harsh critic of Devin Haney in that circumstances, but it is what it is. You can either phrase it that he wasn't given the opportunity to win it, because Vasily Lomachenko was given the franchise title to move him away from being the mandatory of Devin Haney, and then miraculously Devin Haney gets stripped as soon as the first excuse they have to strip him comes along. Anyway, Devin Haney definitely got that belt in a funny way the first time. In this way, another funny way, but this time it seems like he got it for acquiescing on something that he probably didn't do anything wrong, where he didn't do anything wrong to begin with. So Devin Haney doesn't stand on the statement that he makes and apologizes for something I doubt very seriously he felt like he really needed to apologize for, directly in exchange for getting that WBC title back. And if that's the case, it makes Devin Haney look very, very wishy-washy. Like, is he going to say, if he says something today, will he stand by what he said today? If he says something today, will he stand by it tomorrow? Or will somebody give him some type of trinket or give him some type of incentive to change his mind and do something different That's not really the type of champion for the black community in the United States. Those are not the type of champions that's not the type of action that people are attracted to in their champion. You have a tremendous amount of support for Deontay Wilder amongst his core fan base still, win or lose, because of the type of person that he shows and the fact that he had a lot of people chastise him for saying he wanted to catch a body in a boxing ring, and Deontay Wilder wouldn't apologize for that. Would not apologize for it, said, yeah, that's my job, that's what I want to do, stood by it, and still, did it affect him at all? No. Did it prevent him from fighting for major championship fights or getting a lot of money in his fights? No, it didn't. He was able to stand on his principles. He stood by what he said, and he had fans support him because of that. Older examples of that are guys like Muhammad Ali, who gave up his career because he was about to apologize or make some type of fake statement that he didn't believe. He could have went to Vietnam and not ever went into a battle. He could have been fighting. He could have stayed as far away from anybody, any type of gun, as he possibly could have kept him, because he would have been out there entertaining the troops in a nice, safe area, throwing jabs, taking pictures, doing things like that. And they made him aware of that. And he still said, nope, ruin my life before I step away from my principles. Now, I'm not comparing what Devin Haney said to what Muhammad Ali did in Vietnam. It is very similar, however, to what Deontay Wilder said, but Deontay Wilder stood his ground. Muhammad Ali stood his ground. Devin Haney decided he wanted to get the WBC belt, was enough for him to apologize. And it's not a strong look, man. It's really not a strong look. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.